Welcome to What's in a Game. On today's show, Will and I are celebrating 1,000 subscribers, the highs, the lows, and what's to come. But first, Nikola Jokic is doing Eurobasket officially now. But so is everyone else in the NBA, apparently. Stay tuned for our first look at a star-studded European championship. Welcome back to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host Will Jones. How are you doing on this fine day, Will?
I'm doing good. I hope the chat is doing good. It's cool to see everyone here and thanking us for, congratulating us. And I want to say thanks to everyone who's subscribed and who's coming to hang out. Yes, sorry we're overlapping with DNVR right now, but if you want to hang out for a bit or whatever you want to do, it's cool that we have so many cool, such good content to watch all over the place for the Nuggets, because this is going to be a fun season for them.
Yeah, I hope so, and for us too. Yeah, we tried to find, when we started doing live streams, we tried to find optimal, streaming hours, but obviously we have personal scheduling things that come into play as well. So, no problem. Obviously not an issue for everybody who's going to be watching this on the replay. Before we get started on the show, a couple programming notes. First, obviously it's the off season now, and so our schedule is going to be a little bit more sparse and has been a little bit more sparse. We're doing shows about once a week, unless like some crazy thing happens. It might pick up. We haven't decided yet during Eurobasket. We'll get to those dates when we get to that segment. But for the most part, we'll just be doing shows once a week. Thanks, Hurricane. Please do us a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Obviously, we are celebrating a pretty big milestone with our subscribers, but we want to keep growing the show, and it really helps us out with the almighty YouTube algorithm as we try to keep growing the channel. Celebrating 1,000 subs today. Our next goal is 1,500, and we might actually hit that sooner than I thought we would, because we're already at 1,090 subs, which it's kind of crazy because it probably took us like, a few months to get that last 100 before we got to the 1,000, and then it's been about a month since less than a month since we hit 1,000. So pretty cool that we're already that close. We have great viewers and listeners of the show. So but obviously please continue to help us out and hit that subscribe button. Were you going to say something?
No, it's just off season's really fun because we get all the new news. Thankfully, it's been going well for us so far, and it wasn't like the Nuggets did nothing in terms of like trades and whatnot. And it was like really boring. So it's really been awesome to talk about the Nuggets' new moves and be excited about the season. In addition to like everyone in the chat and all of our viewers and just people who talk to us on Twitter and come and continue to talk to us here, like it's really cool to share it with everyone. It's a great time to be a Denver Nuggets fan, I think, as always, since we have Jokic. And I'm excited we're going to see more Jokic basketball soon.
Yeah, it's exciting to get the official news on that. But actually, right before the show started, we got a couple of breaking news updates that we were going to cover before we talk about Jokic. On some NBA players that are catching charges related to some pretty serious allegations. The first is Gilbert Arenas, who obviously former NBA star and host of the what is the show called? Gil's Arena? Gil's Arena?
I hate Gilbert Arenas, so I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, same. Which is why I wanted to cover this on the show, honestly. But I'll just read the update from Chris Haynes here. Former NBA star Gilbert Arenas and suspected Israeli crime figure were arrested today on federal indictments alleging that they operated illegal gambling business in which high-stakes poker games were played at Encino Mansion Arenas owned. So For some reason, it seems like he's being kind of swept up in some grander scheme that maybe the Israeli crime figure referenced here is sort of the bigger fish, but Gil kind of getting swept up in this because of some illegal poker games uh at his mansion. But I was reading through the charges, and one of them is lying to federal officials, which is a big no-no, and that's one of those things where it's like if they can prove that you just lied about something that you told them in some prior interviews or whatever, that's like you're in hot water there. That'll definitely be something to monitor, but that was pretty my jaw dropped when I saw that story. I think, Will, you were still prepping for the show, so you hadn't heard these
Yeah,
yet.
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah,
Also,
that's right, Hurricane. That's a big big part of the arenas lore. Just for the
yeah,
audio listeners, Gil, when he was an NBA player, brought a gun to the locker room and pulled it on a teammate. He's talked about this on his show and how he felt that the punishment on him was too harsh, and how the way that he was treated in the league thereafter was too harsh in terms of like difficulty, um,
I
you
also
know,
saw, I don't know
getting
when this
signed,
came out,
etc.
but we're not going to talk about this extensively, but Shannon
Hmm.
Sharp got fired from ESPN.
I did see that.
So it's
I did
another,
see that.
people are just misbehaving.
Yeah. ESPN is owned by Disney, as many of our viewers know, and the mouse is very strict when it comes to it's not just like morality clause stuff, it's really just any major like personal thing that could slightly tarnish the brand. And obviously the allegations against Shannon Sharp are not um minor like tarnishing things. Although when that lawsuit was first brought, it seemed pretty clear that there was a lot of fishy stuff going on with this,
Hmm.
how that played out. But the fact that he settled, I think Disney was just like, nope. I bring up the example during the pandemic of I'm an avid General Hospital watcher, although it has kind of taken a backseat since I got into basketball, if I'm being honest. But one of the long time, I'm talking decades long, actors on that show who played a like pivotal character that had been around for decades before I started watching the show, uh, came back because it's one of those soap operas where actors come in and out, but usually there's like one guy who'd been that character for years. He came back after they like resurrected his character. It was with a different actor, but then they like killed him off and gave him a twin, and then the original actor was back. Right? Some people might know Steve Burton. But during the pandemic, he was staunchly anti-vax, and that meant that uh, he will obviously, because of all the restrictions that ABC had, also with the parent company of Disney, with filming and all this stuff, they were just like, nope, we're not doing this, and you're out. And so they killed his character off again. They were just like, oh, crazy, because I was like, damn, if there was a fan favorite on that show, if there were like two or three, he was definitely one of them. And they were just like, nope, we're not dealing with this. And so ever since that incident, I was like, nope, I don't think that Disney tolerates, even like the hint of impropriety, as they
For
see it.
sure. Yeah, I didn't know what was going to happen in those kinds of cases. It's all messy, but you hope that uh, any form of justice can be done when it's such serious allegations. But let's enjoy the downfall of Arenas and Markieff Morris right now, because those are two Jokic enemies, I would argue.
Right. So Markieff Morris is the other one here. He was arrested in Florida basically for writing bad checks, but apparently to a casino. And I'm talking bad checks on the order of like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I just can't
um,
believe, like, you
yeah.
have the fraud in real life, you have fraud on the court. They're being merged
Yeah. He's being
together.
He's got
It's just
fraud. The
beautiful.
charges are literally fraud. So
He was fraudulent about him lying about how hurt he was when Jokic retaliated against his cheap shot. Oh, that was Marcus Morris. Damn it! I thought.
no, it was
Wait,
Markieff. It was Markieff.
yeah, didn't
But
he hit Markieff
wait, was
Morris?
Marcus the one who was arrested? Is that what I'm missing? I'm pretty sure it's Markieff also.
Yeah, I thought it was
It's
Markieff and Markieff.
Oh, no. You're it every story has Markieff also just talked about it. Marcus
Oh,
Morris is the one who is arrested.
well,
Which is
he's
surprising because he's the one who's been not playing, but like under contract recently in the league. So it's like, what are you doing, man?
well, damn. Doesn't work as well now because Marcus Morris is better than Markieff, and he had a longer
I mean,
playing career if he was actually making impactful basketball plays. Markieff was less so,
yeah.
in my opinion. But
It's almost more surprising that it's Marcus now because
Marcus, yeah, Hurricane is a good point.
yeah,
Marcus Morris is the one who stepped to Paul Millsap and
that's right.
urged us to make that amazing comeback. Yes, it is hard to tell them apart. So yeah, I swear I saw a
Especially
ton
when
of
every
Markieff
story
listed,
decides
but
to put both names together when
yeah,
they're
they're
talking
mixing it up
about
too.
this.
Well, the Marcus brothers together are Jokic opposition opponents and enemies. So I'm
And
enjoying this.
Jokic's brother stops as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Markeith recently on a podcast that said that he wants to box
Yeah,
Jokic's brothers?
yeah, he said that.
Yeah.
And that was when we got like the best Jokic brothers Twitter moment, maybe the only one, where they like made their account to come in and shit talk them on Twitter as
And then
Jokic brothers, and they signed their tweets off as Jokic brothers, which is just hilarious. I wish they were still around,
Well,
but you know the
I mean, they're
Jokic's and
alive.
social media don't really mesh.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I think that's
Yeah.
true. All right, but enough about these other NBA players or former NBA players, I should say. Let's talk about Nikola Jokic. Before we get into the Eurobasket news, we gotta cover this story that came in the last few days. So one of Jokic's horses from the Dreamcatcher stables, that Jokic owns, won a race, what do they call it? Carriage racing? Is that right?
Oh, I don't know the true definition
Because
or
it's
like the
not they're
true
not
term
like
for the
they're not
race.
like horse races as we kind of know it here in the US where it's just like the jockey on horseback. There's like a cart. It might be kart racing. Anyway, there's like a little cart that the jockey is on behind the horse and the horse is racing.
Yeah.
That's how they do it over in Serbia and I think in other parts of Europe, or I'm sure there are normal, as we know them, horse races as well. But these are the kinds of races that Jokic's horses compete in, right? And Will, if you could pull up the video, because the big story over the last couple of days about Nikola Jokic was how emotional, how openly emotional Jokic got in response to this his horse winning this race. He goes over, he's really happy, he goes to hug the jockey, and he's just crying, his face is red, pets the horse, is very cute, goes and hugs one of the managers, I guess, of the horse there as well. I thought this was a very cute, emotional moment. My first thought when I saw this video, actually, wow, he is so emotional. I thought it was cute. I was just like, I love that he cares about this so much. But first thing I thought of was, wow, what a quick turnaround from the China trip
Yeah.
that he took for 361, where he was there. I think it was only supposed to be a 4-day trip anyway, but there was a lot of social media content coming out of that trip, so maybe it just seemed a little longer than it actually was. So I was like, okay, Jokic is back in Europe was my first thought when I saw this. And my second thought when I saw it was, I love that he cares about this thing so much. I just love getting cute social media content about our players throughout the off season, right?
Good for you to have that reaction and just enjoy it genuinely, because I immediately went into defense mode where I was like, I know how this is
You
going to be
just know.
used.
Well, that was my third thought was also that. So, Will, why
Okay.
don't you get into your defense reaction and why you had that reaction?
It's just the classic narrative that Jokic doesn't care about basketball and he loves other things more, and that it's just a job for him, which is fine. Even if he thinks it's a job, I don't have a problem with that. And we all love Jokic, and I think his success proves that he has a good mental perspective on the game and his relationship to it. And we've had Vlatko confirm on DNVR that Jokic, puts in so much work that people don't even necessarily realize, though you could probably guess if you think about what a player would have to do to get to the level that Jokic is at. But I just know that people are going to be pushing those clips of him and how like joyous he looked, and then juxtapose it to how he reacted to the championship. And they had that little, I think NBA, what's the account, NBA Central or whatever, like put the clip of him with the champagne bottle for 1 second and how he was like barely shaking it, and then showed how he was like going crazy with the champagne on the horse track. And I just hate when people get
Can I
ammunition.
interject there real quick?
Yeah.
So you can interpret that one. There's a couple of different ways that you can interpret that. Just the on the champagne bottle thing. It's one, oh, did he learn how to pop a champagne bottle after the championship? I'm
Oh,
going to say no.
he's an expert
I'm going to
now.
go with he was clearly like performing, not knowing how to pop a champagne bottle after the championship because he looked very comfortable popping this champagne bottle after this horse race.
Yeah. And I agree with Hurricane that it's funny that he's very into horse racing and more nonchalant about basketball. I think just anyone who wants a more nuanced take about how he views each, um there's something there where you can understand how when you have all this pressure on you to be the franchise guy and an MVP and win a championship, it takes so much work and it's exhausting, right? And his horse racing, I would argue, is more like his passion, hobby, personal project. He's doing everything he can to make sure that his team's successful, I bet. And so when they actually win it all, he's probably so happy for them. Jokic is always happy for others. And when
Yeah,
it's his own personal accolades, he's more like reserved and humble about it. And so it makes perfect sense to me, but I get other people will run with it in ways that I don't necessarily like. But I get that it's like Twitter and people push agendas and they, clown on players they don't necessarily like. That's just how it is. But I was just ready to be in defense mode and like Twitter defense mode. And so, I got into it with some people.
I feel like you're often on Twitter defense mode.
Yeah, maybe that's just my natural state.
Yeah, no, to that, I do think on one hand, just to that point that I made about the champagne bottle, there's one argument that you can make that like it's difficult to sort of full-throatedly rebuke rebuke the arguments that Jokic doesn't care when part of his own, I think, intentionally media crafted image is to not care. And there's a couple of different benefits to that. One, people stop asking you shit, right? And we know even if Jokic cares about the thing, he doesn't like the circus of it all. I think that's pretty obvious, right? And the other benefit is, and this is like part of the meme of like, well, why would there even be some Nuggets fans that run with this? And what benefit is there to that? If you are someone that is just like casually good at a thing that like carries its own sort of cachet. And I don't think that's necessarily his intent, but I think based on him not necessarily caring about the pomp and circumstance of it all, he probably doesn't mind that narrative being out there, like that aspect of the narrative.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just casually brilliant, sure, whatever, right?
I'm sure he doesn't know.
Right. My interpretation, or one of my favorite interpretations that I sort of built off of here. I think this was from Antonio on Nuggets Twitter. He said that Jokic would probably cry like this after victories if he were allowed to drink during basketball games too. And he's and I was thinking like, oh yeah, he totally was drinking during this horse race
he had to.
Those are the tears that you get. Like I said, he hadn't had that kind of emotional response to a victory where it's like face red, all this stuff, since Team Serbia won bronze at the Olympics last year after a day of drinking going into the medal ceremony, right? And it just reminded me of that, like him going up to the horse and going up to the jockey and just like wanting to hug everybody and all that reminds me of having a night out with your friends and you're like 6 or 7 drinks in. It's been a very long time since I've done this, guys, just FYI. And you're just like, I just love you guys so much. And you're just that's now everybody knows what kind of drunk I am.
I am glad we get Jokic celebrating and enjoying the off season, you know, whether it's with Team Serbia after almost beating the US and winning the bronze, or his horse winning races. It's amazing to see. Like I want him to be enjoying the off season. He obviously lives the off season up to the fullest and tries to really
good for him. Dude's done a lot, actually.
And I think it helps him, you know.
He's done his river rafting trip. He did his spent time with his family. He was there were other videos of him at like watching his horses race earlier this summer. Then he does the China trip, comes back, gets to enjoy this this celebration of this win here, and then obviously is going to be doing Eurobasket, which we're about to talk about as well. So that's like a very eventful, you know, summer, eventful few months.
And I'm just really excited to see Jokic play basketball again. Like how amazing is that? We're so lucky to be able to witness some. So I'll be excited to see some more Serbian fans watching the channel when we watch some of these games coming up. That'll be amazing.
Oh, before we move off of this topic, I did want to bring up the Players Tribune article that Jokic, you know, wrote, or I don't know how they do these articles sometimes, because this is back from in 2016. I don't know how good his own English was in terms of being comfortable enough to write it. Maybe he dictated this to somebody. But this article was all about, you know, his basketball journey from Europe and coming over to the NBA and how that was going. So if you could bring that one up, I just wanted to read this short excerpt from him about basketball. One thing that hasn't changed for me is the passion. You've seen a few times when other players foul me or grab my leg. I love that kind of play on the basketball court. This is just how we play in Serbia. Last year, I scored and one, and I just started yelling, excited. And the guy just pushed me, and I fall down and make a flip. My teammates start a fight for me. That's what I want to continue doing. Not to make fight, but just to get passion into the game. I don't want basketball to just be a job. I just want to keep that passion. I loved seeing this, and I had not read this article before, but somebody brought it up sort of in defense mode.
But then he wrote, it's better than racing horses.
Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry.
Am I seeing that correct?
Yeah, it's better than racing horses, he said. Which was, that was bringing it back full circle, because the beginning of the article was about how it all started with racing horses. That was something that he did to sort of cope early on with how much he hated all of the workouts associated with playing basketball. If you read the Why So Serious book by Mike Singer, who did the Jokic biography that came out last year. I would love it if somebody were to show that to Jokic and ask him, like, if he feels differently, if he's been able to maintain that passion like that. I'd love to hear his updated thoughts on this, because this is now 9 years ago, right? That you know, since he wrote those words, like basically right within a year of coming over to the NBA. So I thought that was pretty cool to read, at least how he used to think about things. Don't know that that's how he thinks about them right now, but gives you a window into at least what his intentions were coming into the league. and how much he wanted to care about the work that he does. All right. Let's get to our next little news story here. It's not a little one, as I discovered in my research of who was going to be playing Eurobasket last night. Well, if you could bring up the Team Serbia roster for Eurobasket. So this announcement was made just a couple nights ago that Jokić is officially going to be playing in Eurobasket. He's listed on Team Serbia's roster, and I'm assuming their training camp starts pretty soon. Because they've got some friendly games coming up. But we've got a few different NBA players playing for Team Serbia, including 3 Nikolas or Nikolas, however you want to say that, with Jokić, Jovic, and Topic all on the team and trying to make the final roster. I think this is not the final roster that's going to play because I think they're limited to, it's either 12 or 14 guys. I'm not sure. But they also have Bogdan Bogdanovic, who was the team captain in the last 2 major outings for Team Serbia, which were, of course, the Olympics, and then the year before that, the World Cup. And Tristan Vukcevic, who is on the Washington Wizards right now. He just got signed to a standard contract. Somebody that I liked during the Combine. Will, what was your reaction to getting the official news that Jokić is absolutely playing in Eurobasket, and not just Jokić is expected to give an answer to the invitation reports that we got, within the last few weeks?
I'm really happy. I know how passionate Serbian fans are. I mean, that's an understatement with regards to the national team. And when Jokić doesn't play for them, they can be critical of him, and they really want to see him play and show that Serbian pride. And I want to see Jokić play more basketball. It helps him, even though he, I don't know that he complained, but he pointed out that the off season was shorter for him in a way because he had to play the Olympics, so he had less time to do those horse races and activities we just covered. This is obviously less intense than the Olympics, so I'm glad that he can at least go play with the teammates that he really enjoys, play a style of basketball that you don't necessarily get to play in the NBA, which I think is always good for anyone who has the opportunity to do so. And I think it's going to be a positive overall. Like, I can't wait to see it, because I'm like already wanting more basketball as it is. So
I know. So Eurobasket, it's about 2.5 weeks between starting August 27th to September 14th. But there are going to be some friendlies being played between the various national teams in the interim. Last night when I was going through some of the official NBA players that had confirmed that they're going to be playing in Eurobasket, I wasn't really expecting there to be that many, especially because we'd already gotten confirmation that Wemby was not going to be playing with Team France in Eurobasket this summer. And I think pretty soon, maybe it was the same day, we got confirmation that Rudy Gobert was also not going to be. So I thought that was an indicator that there weren't going to be as many guys doing it. But I knew from some announcements last week, Giannis is confirmed for Team Greece. So that's a pretty big deal, because without him, it's kind of like that team is questionable. Luka playing for Team Slovenia. We've got Franz Wagner and Dennis Schroeder and Tristan da Silva, who I didn't realize that players that young were going to be playing for their national team, but they're all playing for Team Germany. Franz actually talked at the end of last season, when the Magic season ended, at his exit interviews, that he was considering skipping Eurobasket this year and not playing with the national team. He had played with the German national team over the last 2 summers. He played in the World Cup. He played again in the Olympics last year. And he is a young player. I know there were some Magic fans that were like, it would be nice if Franz had a full off season that he could just dedicate to skill development and things like that in a pretty, crucial window and that kind of thing. But I personally don't have any issue with Franz deciding to play. I think it's usually a pretty big deal for these guys. Um, Especially like when you're young and you still have the energy to like go through a full summer, do the thing, and then go through an NBA season and do it again. I think it's worth it to just have that experience. And I would imagine the fact that Team Germany didn't take home an Olympic medal last year probably has something to do with it because they are a very good team. They won gold at the previous year's World Cup. And so they have a really good chance at a medal or a title, I think, in Eurobasket this year. And they probably, I would imagine, not France specifically, but maybe like the kind of soul of that national team probably wants to get that taste of the Olympics out of their mouth because they were one of the teams that was favored for at least a medal going into the Olympics. We also have Lauri Markkanen confirmed for Finland. Dante DiVincenzo playing for Italy, and I didn't realize that he was actually like Italian.
Yeah, like the name's Italian, but like
yeah,
you never know. He could be U.S.
Right.
But there you go. That's pretty cool. I love seeing NBA players out there and like create some hype for this.
Yeah,
I know people
kind of, like, going through this, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like an actual thing.
And I have some Twitter friends that are going to be there in Belgrade for Luka versus Jokic. So that's going to be really cool.
There's going to be a friendly game between Serbia and Slovenia towards the end of August because
and
those
Jonas
teams
playing,
are not
right?
in the same. Yeah, I've got some more. I've got like a bunch more names to go through here.
But yeah,
we'll get there.
Very interested to watch him.
Yeah, Serbia and Slovenia are not in the same group. As Eurobasket gets closer, we'll talk a little bit about some of the groups, but we'll probably be focusing mostly on Serbia because we want to watch Jokic play. Couple more wings here. We got Santi Aldama playing for Spain, Deni Avdija playing for Israel, and I just had a note here that I thought it was interesting, given FIBA's stance on Russia, given the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And because of that, Russian athletes are still banned from FIBA, not just FIBA basketball, 3x3, all FIBA sort of sanctioned events right now. But, you know, I guess FIBA doesn't recognize Palestine, whereas they do recognize Ukraine. So I guess there's less pressure internally coming for something like that. I was just watching that in particular because it's such a big story in skating because of how important Russia is in skating. But same thing there where there's no, at least to my knowledge, no pressure for a sort of similar, reaction, official reaction to participation by either Israeli skaters or officials. And the reason I bring that up is not because it has like anything to do with like the Israeli skaters themselves, but especially because a lot of the time in skating we have a lot of country hoppers because it's much more difficult to get to participate in the sport if you're from a country with a very competitive sort of slate of athletes. So you'll sometimes switch nationalities to kind of get a better leg up on being able to get assigned international competitions. So we have a few skaters that are skating for Israel that are like questionably Israeli.
Oh, no.
That kind of thing. I found that interesting. Deni Avdija is obviously Israeli. It's not a similar situation, but just something that stuck out to me because of that. And any reaction to the players I've already mentioned? My brain is already ready for the figure skating season to start, as you guys can tell.
I'm just glad there's just so many people willing to play in the off season because we know the NBA season's a grind and everyone talks about that, how they probably wish it was spaced out more. They have more time for recovery, so the product is better. But I'm glad that's not stopping anyone to go and play with their national team. Like these Europeans they have so much pride in their teams, and the U.S. obviously has a ton of talent, and there's a lot of younger players who really want to make Team USA and play in like tournaments and things of that nature. But the Euroball is just different. Like the culture is different. The way the players see their teams in the game is different than even the US. Like as you know, like Nuggets fans were rooting for Serbia over Team USA. Like it doesn't take much.
Not
I would
all
argue,
of them,
not
but,
all of them, but a lot. But
subchunk.
I don't think it takes much to get USA fans to be interested in other teams around the world. Like we're not just USA homers. I mean, some people are, but that's not necessarily how I view them. So I would love to see a team like take the USA down in some tournament, like Serbia almost did, because they're so dominant and historically dominant throughout the Olympics and all these other tournaments.
Unless
So
it's Canada, because I can't root for Team Canada. I've got
that's
my
fair.
anti-Canadian
Even with
bias.
Jamal.
There's nothing like Canada to make me feel extremely patriotic watching any kind of Canadian athletes or teams playing against USA. Joe asks, why isn't Team Canada playing? I'm glad there isn't, though, because I don't want Jamal to play. Because this is Eurobasket. This is only European countries that are participating in Eurobasket.
But I think Canada might be slated to play some games in August at some point. Not in Eurobasket, but in something else. But
yeah,
I haven't seen anything
there are
about
other international competitions, but
I haven't seen anything about Jamal playing with Team Canada. So, but yeah, it's probably good if he.
This is actually like also a thing in skating where the European championships are only skaters from European countries, and when Russia was in, like, they were included in that too, and so they're always super competitive, and you get skaters from like the top skaters in each country like definitely participate. And then we have this other thing for like it's basically like the everyone else championship, and we call it 4 continents. So it's like North America, South America, Asia. Like we're just like, we got to pull you from the other side of the world here. And Africa participate in 4 continents, although I don't think Africa like ever has skaters actually there. So but the 4 continents is not as prestigious a competition, and so on off years, like you may not even have the top skaters from those countries participating, and so it's less competitive and that kind of thing. And so I would imagine that in this, whatever else Team Canada is participating in later in this summer is not as prestigious, because I don't even know what it would be called. And so they're probably struggling to get guys, like the good players, to like participate in that. And so it's kind of like, man, it would be nice if we had like something that was like equivalent to a European championship that could be playing in these off years. But part of it's just like, well, a lot of the talents very concentrated in like 2 countries in the US and Canada. And so if you wanted to make it national teams, that's a little bit different. And maybe like in skating it's difficult, and those are individual athletes that they can compete against their own countrymen, no problem. But I would imagine even more difficult in a team sport. All right, so we got a lot of bigs participating in this too, a lot of European bigs that some names that surprised me. Kristaps Porzingis is going to be playing for Team Latvia. He did not participate in the Olympics. He did not participate in the World Cup. I believe he was injured during the World Cup. This is like 2 years ago, so I can't quite remember. Şengün is going to be playing for Turkey. I thought that was a pretty big deal too. Obviously, we knew that Jonas Valanciunas was going to be playing for Team Lithuania, as well as Vucevic playing for Montenegro, and that was a big deal because I think he basically announced that this is going to be his last stint with the national team for Montenegro.
And I want to say about Jonas real quick, because I totally forgot he was going to be playing for Lithuania during this.
They already had their training camp. Like they that's where we got those quotes from.
Those reports,
was media availabilities at his training camp.
Because I was just so upset about the whole news thing and trying to figure out how it's going to pertain to the Nuggets. I totally forgot about that. But now that we know he's going to be playing with the Nuggets, I'm all in for checking out some Lithuania basketball, because I was about to be boycotting it if he was not going to play for us. But
I don't think he is, but Sabonis did participate for Team Lithuania, not in the Olympics because they didn't qualify, but for Team Lithuania in the Olympic qualifiers last year. And I'm trying to remember if Sabonis participated in the World Cup 2 years ago, but I don't think I saw him on the list for Team Lithuania.
He did not play in 2023.
He did not. Okay.
In the World Cup.
But he did participate in the qualifiers last year. So actually, given that, I would kind of be surprised if he didn't want to participate in Eurobasket. But yeah, he is not going to be participating in Eurobasket. Just look that up. So like Jonas is going to be the big. He's the guy. And our old buddy Jusuf Nurkic is going to be playing for Bosnia. And Bosnia is actually the first friendly for Team Serbia. And that game is next week. I don't know if Nurkic is going to play in that game. I don't know if Jokic is going to play in that game. But if they both do, that would be kind of funny.
We just talked about like their history on the last episode. So
yep,
appropriate. It's coming back around.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So note on this that, like I said, Eurobasket proper like officially starts on August 27th. And I ripped a schedule of the friendlies from Basket News, the friendlies for Team Serbia that they will be playing in the interim. I have no idea how to watch these games. Maybe ESPN will pull one if they like know for sure Jokic. I would imagine they're probably going to try to get the Serbia-Slovenia game, which is that last one towards the end of August, because I think Luka's probably definitely going to play. He just plays like as much as he can for Team Slovenia. So they probably carry that one, I would guess. But yeah, here's the rest. They're going to be playing Bosnia, Poland, Czechia, some other team to be decided, and then Team Slovenia throughout the month of August before the official start of group play for Eurobasket itself. Yeah. I have, like I said, I have no idea how to watch these games yet. I'm going to be looking to our buddy Miroslav Chuk, who is Serbian and is over there and understands more about how to access these games. But hopefully a couple of American broadcasters pick some of these up in the next month, as well as obviously the official competition come basically the start of September is kind of when most of it takes place. You excited, Will?
Yes, I can't wait to watch. People will be sharing like illegal streams or just weird streams on the internet where you can watch all on Twitter. I remember that happening last year where everyone was like, is this stream working? Is this stream working? So come follow us on Twitter and other people on Twitter. I'm sure you're listening, you're already following all the right people to get some links sent your way if there isn't an easier way to watch it.
Yeah, when Eurobasket actually starts, and maybe some of the friendlies as well, I have to check. But there was an app I was using. They're like the official one that FIBA sort of promotes is Courtside 1891. I don't know why they call themselves that, but I just kind of re-up I think it's like $30 for a month or whatever, and then you can get all of the games that are not on national broadcasting. So it's kind of like a little FIBA league pass for the competition, to be able to watch those games. So you can watch replays of them on there as well. Not sponsored, but if Courtside 1891 wants to sponsor us, we'd be happy with that too. So you guys can check that out if you want as well. And sometimes they play the friendlies, sometimes they don't. So it kind of just depends. I will be probably renewing my subscription to that I canceled last year after the Olympics for this competition. All right. Anything else on Eurobasket, Will?
No, let's keep going.
All right.
We got some Jamal sightings.
We have sightings of Jamal in, I don't know if this is his natural habitat, but Jamal just kind of hanging out at a high school football program, got pictures with a fan here. I just grabbed this from the this is the D South Sports Athletics page, and I guess that's the athletic program that these kids are playing with here. And I just liked this because it was like people were kind of circulating this as like, wow, look, skinny Jamal's in shape and like all that stuff, whatever. I just thought it was funny that Jamal is such a man of the people that when he's in shape as a professional athlete at like the highest level, he looks like a normal guy. He's just like taller, but he was like a. Actually, that kid didn't look that short. He's probably really tall, standing next to Jamal.
Probably true.
Right.
Well, there you go. You just got Grace's assessment. That Jamal's looking like a normal guy.
He just looks like, a normal dude. And yes. I just like, I appreciated that because, I'm on my own sort of fitness journey right now. And I'm just like, I just kind of look normal. And that's just kind of, and that's probably all it's ever going to be because unlike Will, who you never talk about this on the show, but you're like a weights person. I'm like a body weight exercises only.
I like those too. I love calisthenics.
Yeah, but it's like I'm never gonna like. I don't think Jamal is ever gonna look like Russell Westbrook, for example, who looks like he was like carved out of a block of marble. By contrast, so just funny to see, professional athlete. Like they come in all different shapes and sizes, obviously, right?
Yeah, fortunately they live pretty far away.
Hurricane, I am not hitting the gym with Swipa. That is, his workouts are absolutely insane. If anybody follows friend of the show, Swipa Cam on Twitter, he's been posting his recent workouts, and I'm just like, literally could never be me. Could never be me. That dude does not skip leg day, let me tell you. Well, if you could play the short clip that we have of Jamal playing football with that same athletic program here. So I put football in air quotes in my notes here, but here he is running a little route, gets open, and then catches the ball. I don't know if this is normal because I don't know anything about football, but I did think it was funny the way that his body sort of flailed when he changed direction. That seems like physics would dictate that that's what your body does. But I don't know if like professional receivers look like they flail like that when they're running their routes. I don't know. Well, you probably watch more football than I do. What do you think?
About this route?
About specifically the point where he changes direction and he looks like one of those flailing arm man inflatables from the car dealership.
Well, running routes is a very specific skill. The best receivers in the world are elite at it. But Jamal is a shifty player on occasion. Like we know him. I mean, you can debate this now because Nuggets Twitter is a little bit in a debate about his ability to create separation. But normally we've seen Jamal be very shifty and create space and hit jumpers over defenders, and he's kind of lulling him to sleep. Little quick jab. He kind of turned the wrong way on that route, I think. He turned back and did a little spin on the wrong side, but it gets the job done. He's just having fun out there.
There it is, from the more of a football expert than I am anyway, even if you wouldn't necessarily call yourself an expert. On Jamal's route. But I love getting these cute off-season things. I love breaking down X's and O's and all that, and I love talking about the trade fodder of the NBA and player movement and teams reshuffling all of this stuff. And I love all the cute dumb off-season videos from at least our players. I hate the ones from other teams because I'm just like, ugh, eye roll. I don't care about those guys. But I love the ones from our players because it's just fun content. Like I said, I follow the NBA as a very elaborate reality competition show, and this is just following the contestants on Instagram. So
you may enjoy it for that reason, but you don't necessarily cover it or talk about it for that reason, because you definitely provide more insight than just living for all the drama. So, but we love that you like that too.
But I do live for the drama.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, let's get into our main segment, which is like almost an hour into the show. We had a lot of news to cover.
Well, it was fun. We got to talk about some Nuggets and
yeah. I was worried about not having enough to say today.
We always have plenty to say.
But Will, you and I, we have to talk about our journey to 1,000 subscribers, which is a huge deal, as I've been alluding to over the last few weeks, as we've been trying to figure out when we were going to schedule this this show to just celebrate that, achievement. Obviously, a huge deal. I thought honestly when we were in the throes of the playoffs and we were like stuck on like 900 and whatever, I was like, I have no idea when we're gonna get to 1,000 subs. It might not be until next season. But here you guys are, and thank you so much to everybody who has supported the show from the beginning, everybody who's new. We appreciate all of you so much. And so I put this segment together. It's basically just like a little Q&A that Will and I are going to go through, where we just kind of talk about how, just the process of starting the podcast, our thoughts on, how it's gotten to where it is, and also, what we think about where it's going to go. So I'm going to start with a question to you, Will, which was, and I think this is important because of the order of operations here, because I did not want to start a podcast, and you can maybe talk about that a little bit too. But why did you want to start this podcast?
Well, I was starting out. I don't even know what the way to put it, but I'm on Twitter. If you follow me, thank you very much. I post all kinds of random stuff on there. Like I used to do clips and memes and sometimes play breakdowns or threads. Like I've tried a bit of everything on there and just mostly just enjoy the community. So instead of just sharing so much content from other people's podcasts, I wanted to just have my own so that I was a little bit less of like a grifter in that regard. Like maybe I should try to putting out something myself.
It's called secondary content creation. Well,
yes. So, but yeah, and Grace used to respond to a lot of what I would tweet. Less so now since we talk so much in person. But we used to talk a lot on Twitter, so we were like, I kept saying to Grace, you could have a podcast. Just say what you say on Twitter in a podcast, because I would listen to that because I thought she had great insight. So I actually, speaking of ice skating, asked you to start a podcast when you were at like a world championship or something.
I was at the world championships in Canada.
Yes.
When Will first messaged me about the show, and I was like, oh my God. Because I didn't want to start a show by myself, right? That was kind of the main thing.
Yeah. We're glad you enjoy the breakdowns, melodies, Dad. I can't wait to get back to that too. But it is fun talking about like how the team is changing and what we expect for the team and all that. So yeah, we appreciate that.
And we kind of started it at a weird-ish time, I guess, right? Because we didn't start the podcast obviously like during the title run. It was like after, it was like right before the title defense basically playoffs were about to start. And then obviously Denver lost, and then they went through this really rough, I would say, season, like emotionally, like maybe it was just rough emotionally for me watching them. But especially, in light of all of that, has your reason for doing the show changed at all over the last 15 months?
Yeah, definitely. I think I had that outlook before, and then now that we've been doing it, and we used to pre-record shows that I have time to edit it and like make things super nice, and we kind of sacrificed a little bit of that to do the live streams to get content out more faster and more timely. And we have the live chat now, so we can talk directly to people who are watching. And I just love that aspect of it, is just kind of creating this all with the chat and with you. And it's just more about just hanging out with Nuggets fans as usual, and less so about, any reason of trying to I'm proud that we're making content, but I just like interacting with you and more fans and just trying to learn about the game and talk Nuggets and break stuff down and just have fun.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, the reason that I eventually said yes to you about starting the podcast and joined Nuggets Twitter in the first place is basically the same. Like, I wanted to just be able to talk hoops, but also learn, right? That's really the main thing is like I'm very opinionated, right? And I have, certain thoughts about how things should go and certain frameworks about basketball, about the team, about the way that the league operates and things like that. But I think that I've had some of those opinions shift. And in addition to that, just getting new information from you. And like, when I say from you, it's not just the things that you've said, but like in the course of our conversations. And I think that longer time listeners and viewers of the show would know that often like we're just in the middle of a conversation and I'm talking to you about something, and then I kind of talk myself into like a new way of seeing a thing. And even if it wasn't necessarily something that you or like the guest told me, it's just me kind of thinking off of what they've said that also does that. So that's a different way of learning, and something I'm used to, because I don't talk about my life outside the podcast that much, but my background is in academia, and that's something that we do a lot. We just talk to each other about stuff and just sort of like figure out new ways to think about things. And so I love that process. And that's been really fun. But just speaking on the last, especially this last year, I think the podcast has been cathartic. Like we definitely had those episodes where we're just like, why does this team suck? Why do they hate us?
Why is this team not putting in effort in the regular season? That question was asked so many times.
So many times, right? And and I think that helps to sort of quell the passions, the negative passions associated with fandom as well.
I will say it has been really interesting to start the podcast when the Nuggets were like on top of the world, coming off the NBA championship in the title defense season. And we knew they weren't necessarily going to repeat, even though we were covering that playoffs and hoping we were going to go back to back. And we were closer to doing it than I think people maybe give them credit for, though we did go out in the second round. To now, like, we've shifted through a lot of different phases where the Nuggets are kind of looking stale, and the Calvin Booth drama and Alone being fired. I didn't imagine that we'd be going through that kind of an arc, because I was like, we have the Jokic, Jokic in his prime, the young core's locked up. Like, this is going to be a golden age of the Nuggets, and we're here for it to cover it. And we definitely had more like downs as a team. And I think we're going to be coming back up to another like really serious title contention season. So it's cool just like going through those things so quickly. It's pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, we got to chronicle a pretty, like I said, 15 months. A pretty very like quick turnaround in terms of like a fall from grace.
Right? A fall from grace, pun intended.
Pun intended. And it was sort of humbling, I think, right? Because after the championship, I think a lot of us were like, yeah, maybe, like, probably not, but like, yeah, dynasty, like, why
Dynasty,
not?
Project Dynasty.
Let's go for it. Project Dynasty. And I do think that this last year will, obviously we didn't have the podcast like during the title year, like I said. But I wonder if we had, how like confident would we have been in our analysis? I'm the doomer, right? Like, I like to downplay things and everything like that. And I after I sort of started following the team, I go back and I watch some of those regular season games and things like that, and just wonder, like, man, what would I have been saying about the team at this point when they're like blowing out the Celtics in Ball Arena? That was probably the second best team in the NBA that year. During that January run, I'm like, oh my gosh, what would I have said about the Zeke, Najee, Vlatko, Chanchar bench front court being able to win their minutes in January.
Man, that would have been such a fun season to have the podcast in. I was so confident, even in the off season when we got KCP and Bruce. I was texting everyone that I knew who was a basketball fan and was my basketball fan friends, because I didn't even have them. I wasn't like that integrated into Nuggets Twitter at that time, because when we were going into the playoffs, there was like this big Nuggets follow train, and then everyone like started getting introduced to each other more. But I was saying like this is the best roster the Nuggets have ever had. I was looking around the landscape of the NBA. There wasn't like a juggernaut team that we needed to get past as well. So I was like, this is the best opportunity we have. And I think Jokic said similar things where he's like, we have an opportunity, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do something special. Even though he had said he had won the MVP, his second MVP, and was saying on the TNT interview outside of his horse stable that he believed the Nuggets had everything they needed to win a championship. That was before even KCP and Bruce came. And the team was much worse then, I think.
Right, because like Jamal and MPJ were supposed to be coming back. So like even if nothing else happened, that was a thing. And that kind of tells you like his mindset about what he felt like the team needed, sort of a baseline to, compete for a championship.
Other than that last month where we were way ahead in first and we were kind of like mailing it in, and people were starting to, not necessarily Nuggets fans, but other analysts were starting to ask a lot of questions about the Nuggets. And even me, I was like, can you flip a switch when you get into the playoffs? Like, are we going to be fine? And I maybe was worried for a second. But other than that, once we started playing in the playoffs and we were like crushing teams, it was beautiful. I was only nervous when it was tied 2-2 versus the Suns, maybe a little bit. But other people were less nervous.
I was more annoyed. And obviously, I was not yet a fan of the team before the playoffs, right? I probably wasn't even like, I wouldn't have necessarily considered myself a fan, even if I was sort of growing in my fandom before that Suns series. But after those 2 games in Phoenix, I was more annoyed than anything, because I was like, they should have won at least one of these games. But I was like, Jamal annoyed me for one of them on offense. And then in both of them, I was like, nobody's playing defense right now. What are we doing? They were just like not closing out to corner shooters at all. I just remember that vividly. Also weren't making their own threes, but I thought they scored enough to win in those games. It was really more about the defense, that's another thing that's changed about me over the last 15 months, or not 15 months, because we didn't start the podcast until I'd been a fan of the team for almost a year. So if you had 12 and 27 months, it's like 2.5 years. 2.25 years, is I care so much more about defense now than I ever thought I would. And not just individual defense, but team defense and everything like that. And I think it's one of the most difficult things to assess in terms of like one way in the NBA. One of the most difficult things to assess in terms of like trying to have one quantitative metric, or even if you're just describing it, talking about the impact of a particular player, or how a particular team's defense can be exploited, right? For example, when you talk about the LA Clippers this past year, they were a really good defense for a variety of reasons, and they presented serious challenges to Denver defensively, and like in terms of their defense giving Denver problems in that round 1 series. And then when you look at it, it was like the numbers show that it's one of Denver's best offensive series in the last few years. Not the best one, but it was like, this is a lot better than you'd expect them to perform against a top whatever defense that by the eye test was giving, especially like Jokic in particular, issues, right? Obviously helps that like rest of sitting his threes, all this stuff, whatever. It's like, how do you assess how good a defense is going to be like in the playoffs? Then you've got the Oklahoma City Thunder that are this insane, regular season defense, like generational regular season defense, right? Still incredibly good in the playoffs, but it's like, why does that gap exist between how good they are in the regular season and the playoffs defensively and offensively? But we won't get into that. But that's just like something that's changed for me over the course of the show. Didn't want to get too too into the details. We'll save that for our more our philosophy corner episodes where we just kind of talk about the evolution of various aspects of NBA basketball. Okay, well, what is something that you think we have gotten better at as the show has gone on? You can talk about us, like the show, or like you in particular that you think you've gotten better at.
Well, I mean, the technical aspects of putting a podcast together is maybe underrated, if that's a good word to say.
Like as I realized as I had to cover for you when you were out sick, trying to do the obviously one-woman show.
You can put together a podcast and just plug in microphones and go ahead and talk, and that's the most important thing, is like the personality and what you bring to it. And you can add like 100 bells and whistles and your podcast can still suck, obviously. But I just like that we've been able to find a way to do everything we used to do when we were pre-recording and then kind of translate it into a live show, because the live show is really fun. And even though we may have been like nervous to do live shows and just not knowing how it was going to go, that's been the best thing for me. To get the chat up on the screen makes my editing process a little bit easier to do everything on the fly in some ways, and like bring in clips live and talk about it instead of going back and putting the clips in later. That was pretty hilarious to think about.
And trying to like align them to like, how long were we talking about this for? Do I need to stretch out this video, re-loop it, whatever? Yeah.
And just find I'm just happy to like find more of like, we always knew we were going to be kind of niche talking about just the Nuggets, and we're still trying to grow and we're still really small, but like I love the little community that we have now and the viewership we have. Like we have really cool followers and people who come in and talk. So that's been amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you again. Thanks for even being here now and letting us revel in this 1,000 subs and then talk about this stuff.
Like this is the self-celebration.
Yeah,
I'm
self-serving.
Kind of like, how much of this do we do?
We're
going to get to a couple of fun Nugget segments as well. Yeah. For me, it's just like I don't spend 4 days planning a show anymore. I used to spend so much time planning each and every show with really extensive notes. I do still have extensive notes, but I just am better about managing how much time I spend planning the show. And I want to make it a good experience for the viewers, but also when we have guests, try to get the most out of those interviews when I can. The viewers will also know, or hopefully note, I think, that I've gotten better with the occasional lapse of giving appropriate space for others to speak, whether it's Will or a guest. And like I said, the occasional lapse, I'm still getting better at that. I'm going to go off on a little ironic soliloquy on this very thing, because I recently was watching season 2 of The Sandman on Netflix, and the Delirium character felt very relatable, because she would just kind of go off on these little tangents and just sort of like you could see the wheels spinning in her head as she jumps from topic to topic to topic, and you forgot what the original thing that she was talking about was. But that's sometimes how I feel. But I am aware of it and I'm working on it, and I think I've gotten better at it. I'm going to keep trying to get better at that.
Well, on some level, like you were saying before, the way that you talk through your ideas is part of why you make a good podcaster, because you're like an audible thinker at times. So like when you like talk yourself through stuff, at least it comes out very eloquently. So it could be worse on that front.
So. Hey, Taz. All right, last part of this segment here. What is your biggest hope or goal for the show in this coming year?
This is kind of putting me on the spot. I didn't actually come to the show notes and look at this question.
I tried to give you as much heads up as possible. Okay, maybe I can talk about mine first.
Yeah, you start.
For the coming year, I didn't actually like plan an answer for this, by the way. I think my biggest goal for next year is to just get more subscribers. Like I want more eyeballs on the show. Like I like the way that we do our show. There's nothing major that I would change. Like I want to keep getting more new guests as well. We love our current friends of the show. We'd like to expand that, suite of guests because like I said, part of the goal of this show was to learn as much as possible. And so kind of extending that net outwards. I think I'd like to have more guests on that cover other teams. That's probably my biggest goal for next year and sort of planning that around. Obviously, we want to keep it still kind of anchored on the Denver Nuggets, but be planning things around like, okay, we've got like a big game coming up against the Celtics or whatever. Let's try to get a Celtics person on to talk about that. I mean, maybe not the Celtics next year because they're going to kind of suck. But as Western Conference teams, let's get some like Houston Rockets people on here to tell us a little bit more about that matchup and how they view Denver and that kind of thing. I think it'd be good to get some more outside of the fandom perspectives on our team as well as on other teams. And so that's probably my biggest like tangible goal for the coming year.
Jay Kerr says, this podcast is quality production, good analysis. Give yourself a break, Grace. You rock. So thank you, Jay Kerr, for the positive messages. Yeah, we actually maybe can we talk about the time when we were trying to get the Nuggets trainer on the show?
Not yet, because that's not actually completely off the table yet.
Okay. That's been a long-term goal for us.
It's difficult to get people from the team sometimes. Probably difficult to get people from all teams, right? Just because they're so tight on the way that they do PR, but we're gonna keep trying.
Oh, Caitlin Cooper would be
absolutely
a dream.
Hurricane. I would love to get Caitlin Cooper on this show. I get like, oh my God, when she responds to like a comment on Twitter. So hopefully she'd be a great one to get on. Matt Brooks, frequent friend of the show. I think he's been on the second most times
after
CT. So we will we're going to try to get him on again, probably this off season, to talk about some of the roster changes and break down some film on different ways that we can use guys like Jonas and Cam and Tim Hardaway Jr. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have Matt Brooks on again.
Hurricane says, get someone Denver local basketball. References Markel, a coach at George Washington, and then quickly suggests Caitlin Clark after that. Two very similar grabs.
Caitlin Clark right on there, easy.
Yeah, the guests are always amazing. Grace is really good at like getting guests for the show and asking them to come on. I just annoy people in their Twitter mentions. And one of my goals that I want to do is have some viewers vote on some segments and things that they want to hear us talk about. Like similar to the mailbag where people ask a question, I would love people to be like, do a whole segment on this. That would be fun to do. And then I just want to keep learning about basketball and keep bringing the production quality and hopefully good quality basketball analysis as much as I can. And I just want to like be able to rewatch more games because that's when it really helps me break it down more. Because I'm not like someone who can just watch the game once and just like have everything I want to talk about. Like I can have general points, but like rewatching is really where the magic happens for me. So that would be a nice goal.
Yeah. I hate rewatching losses though. That's something I have to get better at. It's like taking the emotion out of it for some of those.
Yeah. We definitely love bringing in clips and doing those play-by-plays and all that. So
yeah, we do a lot of that during the season, Jay Kerr. So when we have actual basketball to discuss, we'll have more of that on the show for sure. For sure. Maybe we'll get some of that with Eurobasket. I don't know.
Yeah,
first we got to figure out how to watch these games, how to acquire
and if film. We're even allowed to show them. Like if Olympics were cracking down on any clips from the Olympics.
The Olympics are like a particular thing because NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast, are like notoriously like crackdown artists when it comes to any kind of Olympic content. So I do think it'll be different with Eurobasket because I don't remember. It was 2 years ago, so don't quote me on this, but I don't remember them being that strict during the World Cup, for example. So I don't think it's a FIBA thing. I think it's an Olympics thing. Yeah. Ooh, Jay Kerr says watch alongs. I thought about that. I don't know if you guys need to be watching me watch games. That seems that could be tough. That could be tough depending on the outcome. Just yesterday I was watching the Golden State Valkyries play the Atlanta Dream, and I was literally in the kitchen like baking, and I had the game up on my computer, like my laptop on the counter or whatever, and my fiance was like in the living room like on a work call like across from like where I was watching the game, and I'm just like in the kitchen like because Cecilia Zandalicini, she had a game winner, and I was like with the loudest whisper, yes, 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 like I don't know if the people actually need to see all of that, but maybe they want to see that. I don't know. Watch alongs, we'll take it under consideration. It's not a bad idea.
What were you baking?
Banana bread muffins. Banana bread muffins, because we had some leftover bananas. We are, yeah. I love making banana bread muffins. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you for being here.
All right. Anything else you want to say about the show, Will, before we move on to the next segment?
No, just thanks for being here. We're going to continue going strong and trying to get better and bring analysis and fun. And yeah, so let's get to one of the original segments that we did.
Yeah. This is one of the ones I like going back to because it's a good one. I need to come up with more different kinds of segments, so for sure.
You have my test words still in the draft.
Okay. All right. So for those of you who are newer to the show, the way our shot clock violation segments go is first, either Will or I will go first, and then we'll alternate. We'll just switch off after that. The person who's going will have 24 seconds to, in this case, give the first word that comes to mind when a Nuggets player, when the other one names the Nuggets player. So, I feel like Will should go first. So I'll list off names, and you don't know what order we're gonna go in either. Like you don't know what order I'm gonna go in to help add to the challenge here, and you'll just say, and I guess you'll also type since you're doing the tech, the first word that comes to mind for that player, for you, in terms of your hope for them in the coming season.
Okay.
It's a little more complicated for Will since he has to do the typing also.
I'll just put the names in so I know where to type the word.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So, are you ready?
All right.
This is going to be hard.
Wait, I can't. Where's the timer going to be? Just so I can.
It's going to be down under my video.
Okay, perfect. All right, so you're going to put these under your name, perfect, where you have the current player names listed there on the right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready. First one.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to count down.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going Jonas. Okay, do someone else. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Christian.
Shot.
Okay.
That's all I got. I got one word.
Bruce.
Vibes.
Julian.
Defense.
AG.
Health.
Jamal.
23. Oh my god, I barely got through it.
23? Okay, you gotta explain this one.
So yeah, I went with a number instead of a word because I really want Jamal to return to his 23 run postseason status.
I thought that was in reference to Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I want him to play as good as Michael Jordan. I think that's what we all want.
Yeah, we need to see those. We need to see more of those graphics that we got during the playoff run, where it was like Jordan, LeBron, and Jamal were the only guys that had ever done it.
Dang, I can't believe It is insane every time we do this how quickly it goes. Like
It
it's
does go
over in a
quick. That's
second.
why it's difficult.
I'm looking at the chat. The chat was putting out words. I don't necessarily know who these are associated to. Cowboy has
I
to
should
be
probably not
Bruce.
look at these because they might help me.
Athletic has to be AG. Yeah. That's the best I got. I mean, I'll like AG is amazing. I just hope he's healthy mentally and physically because he's been going through a lot and he brings everything to the team, even if he's dealing with a lot.
Yeah. I gotta say,
CB,
mentality is never something I'm worried about with AG, which is
no.
like insane given what he's been through. Yeah. And honestly, it was the same thing with MPJ, who had been through a lot also. And you were like, well, of all the issues that I've got with this guy, I actually don't think mentality for the most part is like a thing. But
Yeah.
that's just kind of perhaps a byproduct of having been through so much.
I probably should have said like navigation for CB.
Well,
See the screen
that's the
navigating
fun
can
of
get.
it is
But I was
you say
thinking
the first
about
thing that comes to mind.
his shot improving. Not that he shot
Yeah.
as a player.
No. I think I got that. Hopefully the viewers did too.
And then Julian, we just need that defense from him. Let's see. Johnny Keaton says Jamal Murray does have MJ in his initials, just the other way around.
Oh my
Good
gosh.
theory. Good theory. Curry clears Kobe says he thinks Jamal will never return to 23. Defenses are way harder. Could be. Especially those
Curry clears
Thunders.
Kobe. I actually agree with your name, but I don't agree with that statement actually. And you'd think that I would because I was worried about the way that Jamal would perform against OKC. And it's like he didn't shoot well, but it was one of those things where for the most part outside of game 1 where I thought they like legitimately locked him down. A lot of like the rest of that series it was like I feel like he's honestly just missing shots. Other than that, I feel like he's like getting to his spots actually. Yeah. And against the Clippers, it was like I don't see any reason that he couldn't be, averaging over 20 here and doing whatever. And we saw that when he scored 43 on them. So,
yeah.
And I would turn your attention on it, and I've said this on the show many times, just in regard to Jamal. Turn your attention to Game 6 versus OKC. I think that was his, maybe not his best game of the playoffs because that was obvious Game 5 against the Clippers, but it's one of my favorite Jamal playoff games of the last 3 years. I just think he was a very good all-around player in that game. All right, cool. So, Will, you got 1, 2, 3. You got 5 in that one. Pretty good. Especially because the time flies. But okay, I'm ready when you want to count down.
The trick on this for me is I have to rapid fire names after you say it because I'm usually typing and I screw people over by not saying a word immediately. So I'll do my best. Okay. I might have to like type shorthand so I can go fast.
Yeah, that's
and then I'll
fine.
go back and recorrect it. Okay. Let's 3, 2, 1. Jonas.
Oh my god. Positive.
Jokic.
Champion.
Let's go Zeke.
DNP.
Let's go Hardaway Jr.
Defense.
Pickett.
Not a DNP.
That's 3 words.
Not DNP. I said one. I put in the show notes that 1 word and 2 word terms were fine. I think not DNP should be fine. I did say not but plays.
Positive. And
you had Tim Hardaway Jr. as well.
Defense. Yeah, sorry, 1 sec. Let's get this all organized.
We have the same word for him and Julian.
So I think we should. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, sure. So with Jokic as a champion, I'm like, that's the goal of this season, right? It's like win the thing, do the whole thing, get that other tick on the resume. An MVP and a championship would be really, really nice, obviously. But champion was the first word that came to mind because I think that would just like, that's one of those things where I think if you got an MVP, that would maybe bring him up 2 or 3 spaces on like the all-time lists. Depending on the list, it could be like 4 or 5. Champion's one of those where it's like, okay, now we're talking about like we can start doing top 10 all-time arguments just in terms of resume achievements. And you can actually still do that with his current resume because there are very few players that have won 3 MVPs and a title. But a second title's like, yeah. Want that for the arguments and for that drama. What else do I have here? Jonas has said positive, like, let's win the non-Jokic minutes. And honestly, like, it could be positive because he's playing well with Jokic, and it's like, oh, we have a double big look that could be a thing. So this could come in many ways. Zeke, I said DNP because maybe we traded him for positive value, honestly. But I couldn't think of anything positive. And when you don't have anything nice to say, you say
I
DNP.
really almost stumped you with Zeke. That was the most amount of time you spent.
I know. I was like, God damn it. Yeah. Let's see here. Tim Hardaway Jr. defense. Because if his defense is like holds up, especially within Denver's system, then he can stay on the floor no problem and like be a spacer and do all that stuff. Unfortunately, if his defense holds up, it probably means Julian like never plays. Because if Tim Hardaway Jr.'s defense is holding up, there's no reason to take him off the floor.
Do you have any positive things to say about Hunter Tyson?
Not necessarily.
No?
I mean, if I said DNP for Zeke, no, I don't have anything positive to say. That would have really stumped me. I might have just taken up the rest of my time.
You should have said Sacramento for Zeke. that would have been nice.
Actually, I should have said Chicago.
Yeah. Do you want to fill in anyone?
Yeah, sure. So, outside of the clock, I'm trying to think of the first positive word that comes to mind for Peyton, but there are so many different aspects that I want him to improve in that I think are possible for him to improve in. Perhaps ironically, since I said 2-word terms were allowed, I'm going to say defensive IQ. I think a lot of people would probably say the shot.
2 words are allowed after I went.
No, I didn't. If you look at the show notes, Will, if you look at the show notes, I said 1-word or 2-word terms were allowed. I didn't change these since yesterday.
Best dressed.
Yeah. Is Zeke really that bad? No, but I didn't have any thing that I think is gonna like improve. No,
I mean,
I don't know. Maybe
there's definitely a case to be made that he may have to play some minutes, like you already made on the show a couple episodes ago, and
on a 4. And if he's not playing, honestly, it might mean that Duran's playing a lot.
Yeah, which could be really nice. I mean, that's the hope.
4. Yeah.
Not that I don't know. I'm not trying to hate on Zeke, but I just want Duran Holmes to work out, and I want him to be really good. And I get that he's coming off an Achilles and he hasn't played in the NBA yet, so it's kind of crazy to expect anything from him. But I'm really hoping, because I was so disappointed not be able to watch him last season, and I'm excited for that. What would you say for Jamal? I'm just curious.
All-star.
Whoa.
I think I was thinking about this last night. All-Star was the first one that came to mind, and I tried to think of alternatives because I thought if you get that, that's probably the one that comes to mind for you too. But honestly, if Jamal plays at an All-Star level next year, we probably win 60 games.
I have a question. How come you didn't include Cam Johnson on this list?
Oh, because I made it super last minute last night and forgot to put him. And I think Will just copied and pasted what I had. So that was an oversight on my part.
What would we say for Cam?
Oh, you know what it was? I was going from memory on I was just listing them by contract size. And I totally forgot that we have another guy that makes over $20 million. So that was how my brain worked, or didn't work, I should say, on that. So do you have anything for Cam Johnson that you want to add?
I probably would have said something like durability, because I feel like that's the biggest question. It's just not playing complete seasons. I'm very confident when he's on the floor that he's going to deliver what we expect of him. Just a matter of if he can. And I haven't looked too much into the specifics of each injury and like the circumstances surrounding that. I probably should, just because
they're like minor little things, like little nicks, and then like random stuff that the Knicks were like, or not the Knicks, the Nets were probably, lying about, or
yeah,
let's say stretching, that kind of stuff. Like nothing that's like this is a recurring thing that we should worry about happening again. But sometimes when a guy is like consistently injured in like a lot of different ways, it's just like it could be him or it could just be random. Like Paul George is one of those guys that just like, with the exception of the knee stuff, he just gets a lot of random little. It's not like Kawhi where you're constantly worried about the knee, right? But it was just like random, like some minor, some major injuries just throughout the last, like usually lower leg, but not always the same thing. Sometimes those things are connected because like you get one injury and sometimes your body's like overcompensating in other ways that can make you susceptible to injury in other ways too.
Yeah. Joe and Gerald Fanboy says he would have said physicality for Cam because he doesn't know how he may be able to handle McDaniels in comparison to MPJ, where we definitely saw in that series. We saw in that series where MPJ kind of disappeared when Ant was able to take Jamal, who was injured, and then McDaniels could then basically take MPJ out of the series. But I think Cam has more tools in the toolbox to handle and not just be like a complete, you know, zero absence when
it's not
someone
about, like,
legit off-ball defender is on him.
It's not about Cam like taking Jaden McDaniels in isolation. It's about being able to get open off the ball. That's really what it's about. And I think that Cam's got a bit more speed, and that could aid him speed than MPJ does, and that could aid him in that endeavor. Yeah. I think that's kind of it. Like, it's not that I don't think that Jaden McDaniels could also shut down Cam. He could, but I also think Cam has, like you said, more tools in the toolbox to try to counteract that,
It's going to be really interesting. I'm very hopeful for what Cam can do and the versatility on and off ball. I think he has a lot to offer.
With the OKC thing, like, I'm going to be completely honest, like, OKC left MPJ open a lot. And a lot of it's because they put Shea on him, and Shea just plays free safety and decides to ignore whoever he's on. That's how that went. And so, not just leaving open, but like left him. If Cam is going to be more active off the ball instead of just standing in the corner, and I'm not blaming MPJ for doing that. He was on one shoulder, and two, probably part of the directive from the team to do that so that he's never like in the wrong place and like potentially dragging other defenders into lanes that would be clogged, etc. Cam probably gets a bit more leeway in that because he's probably at less risk of reading the court wrong and doing the wrong thing in that sense too. So against OKC, I'm really just like not worried on offense. Defense could be an issue just because like I thought MPJ did pretty well against Chet kind of thing. But then again, so does Pwat. I've seen Jamal do a good job against Chet. That's like, whatever. I hope, we'll just see how that goes. Maybe Chet gets stronger next year and then we don't have anybody for him besides AG, which would be also fine. But yeah, the rebounding is where I'm more concerned about the difference there. I was looking it up yesterday. Actually, I don't think I have it in my notes, but Cam is a much worse rebounder for a forward. I think he's like 46th percentile, so right around average. And MPJ was like 73rd percentile, right up there with guys like Zion. Who else was on that list? Probably, I think he was around like Pascal Siakam as a forward in terms of rebounding. Particularly because cleaning the glass breaks this down by the type of defensive rebound. So it could be like off a free throw miss, off a field goal, whatever. So field goal defensive rebounds, Cam was like average, MPJ was above average. But that 73% was actually the previous year. MPJ, or 73rd percentile, he had a severely down year as a defensive rebounder last season, and that kind of tracks with one, he was playing a lot more of the 4 that since AG was out for such a large chunk of the season, and the whole team suffered defensively, they suffered on the glass, whatever, in that case. And so that was just a generally down year for him for defensive rebounding, but it was still better than Cam. And obviously Cam is probably not going to be the one filling in if AG has to miss any kind of extended time. Filling at the 4, that is, it would probably be Zeke or Duran. It's also one of those things where I didn't really understand some of the criticisms of Malone playing Peyton at the 4 last year, because it was kind of like, well, do you want him to get more minutes or not? And this is like the spot that we kind of need a guy for. But it might end up being the opposite this year, where Duran, hopefully Zeke, probably, at least at the beginning, get more run at that position, both as a backup and as a potential sub when guys miss time for any reason. Anyway, that's a lot on Cam Johnson and his rebounding. See, yeah, this is what happens. I just kind of go on these tangents and I forget.
I just want to get your words for Bruce and Christian.
Ooh. Christian, stopper. Like, I want him to be like a legit defensive stopper. He doesn't, even if his screen navigation doesn't improve from where it was, like, let's say the end of last season. Part of what I still think is perhaps lacking on this roster is a quick-footed guy that can kind of keep up with those smaller guards. And, like, look, Christian's not a smaller guy, but one of the things that was so intriguing about him his rookie season was how good his feet were defensively and his ability to keep up with those guys. And he was able to keep up with those guys. 2 years later, I feel like we've had a substantial slide from that type of defensive performance on smaller guards. And I'm not even talking about the, like, you know, Ant is a running off screens now kind of player. No, I'm talking about, like, I don't want to see you getting cooked off ball by Bradley Beal and like Tyler Hero, like we saw last season. And part of that is screen navigation, but another part of that is just like awareness. Like, a lot of time with the off-ball stuff, it was like Christian forgets he's guarding a guy, and the guy's like, oh, he's not looking. Like, let me, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, he had a lot on his shoulders stepping into the starting lineup last season. I'm hoping, like, he didn't look out of place. I thought he was great as a starter for what he brought. It's just a matter of him being more comfortable, adding more to his game on both ends even. I know it's a lot to ask, but hopefully things can, like, slow down a bit and you get less of those mistakes, because he generally is a very low mistake player. That was when he was in a lesser role. Now that he's taking more on, obviously more mistakes will be there. But, you know, I'm a huge Christian fan, and I definitely believe in his ability. It's just a matter of if he can do those extra little things that we're needing on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah. We have a comment from Curry Clears Kobe about the guarding difference between Christian and Peyton. I generally agree that, here, I'll just read the whole thing first. Christian doesn't have a long wingspan, right? I feel like Watson guards small guards better, and he guarded Curry well, and CB guards forwards better. I agree with this generally, but one of the things that happens, especially after the first year, is guys get on a scouting report. And the scouting report on defensively on Christian is like, run this guy through screens and try to kind of get his awareness off ball. And I don't know if that was on a scouting report, because it was more like a third year phenomenon. Whereas, like, second year starting, I feel like the scouting report on Peyton was like, especially if you're a small guard, you can very easily get him off balance with his because his on ball, his like point of attack footwork is like very lacking. He relies a lot on his ability to recover. And sometimes he just gets completely out of the play, because if you're a shifty enough guard, you can get him so far off balance it doesn't matter that he can recover. The other one is off the ball. Let's say he's playing free safety and he's got a guard, you on a closeout, the scouting report says just pump fake. He will jump. You'll be able to sidestep or you'll be able to drive. And that's it. When he's guarding off ball. I actually think that Peyton has gotten a lot better at like not biting on fakes on the ball. We talked about that this season with like the first time he played DeRozan versus the second time he played DeRozan. Maybe that was last season actually versus the Bulls. He was biting on everything, and then the very next time they played, it was like perfectly disciplined and that kind of thing. And he's done well guarding forwards as well. I don't think he's got quite as strong a base as Christian, but part of the thing with the long wingspan is that I think Christian struggled with in his second year. He actually got better with this year. One, the strength, but two, you need a long wingspan to be able to bother those guys like seeing their driving angles too. And that's where I think Peyton like needs to continue to improve in his discipline, because I think he would be more useful in some of those matchups. But I do think Christian has gotten better at guarding forward. So that's one area where I do think he has improved. Swipe, look at the dedication. I'm getting ready for an NFL shift tonight. And these goats, thank you, Swipe. We're talking player archetypes for Nuggets bench players. It's true. That's what we do this summer. So what was I talking about? I was giving you a word for Peyton. I said defensive IQ. Or was it?
You were talking about, you said CB should be a stopper, just talking about differences between their defending.
Yeah.
We did get a comment. Do you feel like Bruce could be an option for quick guards?
It depends. I don't know what kind of shape he's in physically.
Yeah.
The gap, it's been 2 years for both 2023 Christian Braun and 2023 Bruce Brown, but I think the gap between Bruce being 27 to 29 athletically is different than the gap athletically between Christian being like 20. What was he, 21 and now 23 years old? So I have more questions about Bruce being like physically able to do that, whereas in the case of Christian, I'm just kind of like, so like, what's going on here, man? I feel like you should be able to do this kind of thing. Yeah. Anything else on the words? Well, we don't have to do one for every single player, but anyone else that you wanted to?
Well, it's just last one, just because it's fun talking about every player. I know you just we're talking about Bruce, but what would you say for him? Because it is hard to know how he's gonna be.
All right, Bruce. Honestly, I'm gonna say Justin. Can Bruce be as good in terms of like just lineup impact, doing the little things as Justin Holiday was? I feel like he should be, and that would be fine. One of the reasons that you would want to expect more than that from Bruce is that he's apparently going to be the secondary ball handler in like any given lineup that he's in. And sometimes the primary ball handler, which, can go a variety of ways.
So what word are you going to say?
But,
or what phrase?
Justin.
You're going to say what?
Justin.
Justin?
Yeah, as in holiday.
Oh.
We need, and the reason for that is I feel like we just need one consistent NPC wing. There's like a wing that can be like not a crazy positive, but does enough so that the lineups are positive, but just not a negative. That was something I feel like we were seriously lacking, especially this past season. And I'm going to set the bar pretty low because other than that, I agree with you. Like vibes, like that's a huge part of why Bruce is back. So I don't want to put too much on what, we're kind of hoping or expecting from him because I don't want to be disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like on some level, there's not much expectation on Bruce. He did sign a minimum and he's beloved by Nuggets fans. Just him being around is amazing. But he did play a pretty pivotal role on the championship team. And I know some people are going to want to see that again. But I almost don't even care if he doesn't live up to that 2023 expectation, even if it's just like, a portion of what he gave to that season. But I get that we do need guys to show up because we have big title aspirations, but yeah, like I'm not necessarily worried about Bruce. We
We
have a
got the
question.
Curry clears Kobe also had a question about Bruce's shot. Bruce shot 31% from three in the 2023 title run in the playoffs. I don't know what he shot in the regular season, but just in the playoffs. And for reference, Denver averaged a 120 offensive rating through 4 rounds of the playoffs in that year. Now, to be fair, you had like uh, KCP having a great shooting year to compensate for that. And but AG had a kind of mediocre for him shooting year in the playoffs that year. He's actually had 2 better shooting seasons in the playoffs the last 2 seasons than he did in 2023. Hopefully that continues. But yeah, Bruce was able to make lineups positive without necessarily always making shots, although he also hit some big shots. So the timely ones are what we need. Okay, cool. So, Will, you wanted to go through a check-in of our agendas. We did a show a year ago where we ranked our top 5 NBA agendas. And that was, yeah, like I said, a year ago. So some of them have changed. How do you want to go through these to sort of, do you want to just like list our 5 current agendas?
Sure.
Or okay, and yeah, as we're going, we could talk about how some of them have changed. Okay. So you can start. Why don't you list your top basketball agenda?
So this is what we said from that show a year ago. I
Yeah,
almost
so I
even
have in our
forgot. I
notes
can't
what we
believe you
said a
still
year ago.
have
Yeah.
this.
I just went to the show notes and copied
We
and
still have all of
pasted.
our notes from those shows. So I said Nuggets Western Conference Finals for my
So
first
this show was
agenda.
made in the middle of the Wolves series last year. So you were thinking, so that was perhaps a harbinger of like, oh God, this is like all I could possibly want right now is just a Nuggets Western Conference Finals appearance.
Yeah, it was like, let's just get back there. That was like the standard I feel a lot of fans were setting. Like,
Yeah.
we at least have to make the conference finals. If not, it's a total disaster. And we're going to trade one of the core members of the team, which back then it was harder to assess. Like, it was scary to think about doing that, even though I understood the arguments for it. And as time's gone on and we saw another season, obviously it ended up coming to fruition, I think, for the better, as hard as it was. And so that definitely wouldn't be my top agenda, but we definitely have to make a conference finals soon or the finals again, like with Jokic. Like that pressure is still there. And I think that's the undercurrent of that agenda is just like we need to be contending meaningfully.
So you said
And
finals or conference finals? Is that still your number one or
I feel like I don't know, like maybe I'd phrase it differently, but that idea itself is still like my number one, like a Nuggets championship. I think I would change it to Nuggets championship.
okay.
Like we have to find a way to get a championship still. Like I know even with OKC and other teams getting better in the West, like we have to find a way to get it done. And I think I was like putting my expectations down a little bit for the Western Conference Finals just because repeating so hard. But now it's like we've had a couple gap years. It's time to bring the trophy back again.
Yeah. I agree. And I'm gonna change mine also to Nuggets championship. It was previously just kind of Nuggets slash Jokic legacy, kind of ambiguous, however you want to go with that. But I feel like it's just about the championship. I was considering Jokic Finals MVP, but I'm like, I actually don't care how the championship happens because I think Jokic gets hella credit regardless if they win the championship. Um, so I'm gonna go with Nuggets championship as well.
Okay. I'm going to
Let's
write
see
these
here.
out.
Alrighty. All right. I'll do the next one. We'll kind of do this snake style, I guess. Do, 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 do. Should I wait for you to
No, I'll just keep
set
going.
this
Go
up?
to your
Okay.
next one.
So my number 2 agenda last season, a little over a year ago, was Jamal. Just generally Jamal. Has that changed? Like, is he still my second agenda. I just don't think anything is more important than that. And so much of this past year has been less about, like with that agenda, has been less about like propping up Jamal and more about pointing out how, like, the difficulty that other guards that he gets compared to, whether you're comparing them because you're saying that he's not on that level or not, and how much difficulty other guards had this past season, because it was just like a down year for guards generally, with the exception of Shea and Cade, basically. Like every other lead guard in the NBA had a really down year, and I think part of that's like some of the new rules with the defense and that kind of thing. SGA obviously is able to weather that because he, figures out ways. Cade, I feel like the floor was pretty low, or the bar was pretty low to clear, and it would just help to have like any kind of better spacing there in Detroit. So he had a better year as well. Tyler Hero shot more threes. That's the only other one. Every other lead guard had a down year. Fox, Ja, Trey shot 40% from the field last year. Like Harden had a good regular season in terms of carrying the Clippers, but I don't think you would say it was like a great individual season from him. And part of that was just like the increased burden that he had because he was carrying the team, but it just is what it is. But yeah, I think Jamal legacy is still my second agenda, because I just don't have anything that's more important than that to me in terms of just like other things that are going to be ranked lower than that. And that could come in many ways. That could be him like winning another championship, all-star, him winning finals MVP. Like that'd be great for all the agendas, frankly.
CMB is garbage. Says there's a stat that we are like 20-3 when Jamal takes and makes 3 or more threes.
I think he has to make 3, but I think it's like when he takes 7 or more, we win at like 80% of those games. So that'd be great, Jamal. Take more threes, please. Like we talk about that a lot.
Yeah, we've been wanting that. We always talk about his shot diet and if he could vary his mid-range and his 3-point shot.
I do think that part of it is the way that he plays off of Jokic. They set screens super low. The intention on any given pick and roll, for the most part, is like trying to find a passing angle to Jokic. But there are also other opportunities throughout the flow of the offense where he does pass up those shots. So I would just like to see him capitalize more on those. Maybe Adelman does change up some of the stuff with the offense, have them setting screens a little bit higher, have the intention be a little bit more to get Jamal his shot, as opposed to the intention on a given pick and roll being, to finish with Jokic, which is not a bad intention, obviously, right? Best player in the world, best player in the league, obviously. Excellent scorer inside. But that's the kind of process question that would lead you to.
Jamal agendas are pretty good. But it's like, it's just like a hope that I have. And I don't push a specific Jamal agenda, but it's definitely there. I'm looking at what I used to say, but because my second one is an anti-Warriors agenda, which I probably would change, but they did get Jimmy Butler, and they're on the verge of maybe trading Kuminga. I guess they're trying to get him back. But the Warriors, while I don't think they're going to be tier 1 contenders, aren't going to be like out of the playoffs by any means. But I definitely have a much more anti-OKC agenda. That's what I'm going to put 2.
Okay.
2 is going to be anti-OKC. I'm always going to hate them at this point. And that's who we have to get through to.
And now they've won a championship. So okay, I'll let you keep going with your next one before I give my thoughts on anti-OKC. But generally, I agree. I think that should be higher up on the list now. It didn't even make the table for us last time around.
Well, Curry clears Kobe. I'm not putting the anti-Warriors agenda on my agenda list anymore because it's all about hating OKC.
It's not going to be there. It's not going to be top 5.
I don't think so. They'd have to do something pretty crazy for me to get back on the hate train.
Wow. Well, is it? You've been on the hate train for like a decade and counting now.
Yeah, well, they're just they're in the latter stages of their career, and Clay's not even there anymore. It's just harder to like dislike
Yeah,
them these days.
because they're
They're not
sad.
like the top dog, but I definitely hate OKC more than the Wolves. Um, why doesn't Texas fall into the Gulf of Mexico? I don't know. It would be nice. Then the Western Conference wouldn't be as difficult. They'd have to like create some new teams in the East. Um, so yeah, I mean they're the defending champ. They have their financial situation's pretty bright. Even though they had just give out some extensions. Some of them don't even start. They still have a lot of players on the cheap, so it's not like that bill is going to be punishing them as soon as you think it would for other contending teams because these are rookie skill max contracts. It's not the extensions after that. And I think a lot of the belief that they're going to start having some difficulties with their salary cap reality is overstated. They have a lot of room to operate, and thankfully we were right there on a basketball level. Even though they are going to be getting better, I'm still hopeful we can beat them in a series. It's all about just getting more depth and being more consistent and having better health, and I think we can handle them.
Yeah, we have a comment from Poppin that says Will is reformed. I think that we should announce this news to Caitlin from EA
Oh,
Sports, who's a huge Warriors fan who was very sad about how much Will hated the Warriors.
if the Warriors get to the Western Conference Finals, if they're playing the Thunder, I'll root for them. But once they make the finals, I'll root against them. Sorry, but they're probably
Okay,
going to win. Whoever's in it. I guess the Knicks are pretty good. They could beat the Warriors in the finals. Anyway, let's go to the
the
next one.
Cavs
The Cavs.
probably. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. The Cavs did beat the Warriors by 50 in that one game this season. All right. Your next agenda here, Will.
Oh, I'm keeping
We're
this
doing
the
this snake
same.
style. Yeah.
I did this third
Why don't you
last
share?
year,
Yeah. Okay, you got
and
it.
I'm keeping it at number 3, which is grifting, which plays
Maybe
into
anti-grifting, you should say.
sure
Since you said
anti-grifting.
anti-OKC.
That plays into the OKC dislike, but even it's more of like a league criticism and less OKC, where it's just I want more consistent with what they call and what they don't call. I'd rather them stop rewarding players for grifting. I think it's pretty obvious in the moment when people do it. I don't know why they reward some players with it and like give them continuation on a play, and then on the next very similar play against the other team, they don't give continuation, even if that player does flop or whatever. Like it doesn't make sense. I need consistency, and I really want them to get that under control as much as possible if they can. Just trying to create some consistency, like the way that they put in the rule where the offensive player can't jump into a defender and then shoot and get the foul, even though that's still in the game a bit. It's so much less prevalent, and all they need is like they tried to put in the flopping technical rule and they never really enforce it. I only saw a couple players get a flopping technical rule, and it did seem more of like a personal kind of call where like Jokic would get one, and I'm like, Jokic. I know that other fans say Jokic has this reputation for flopping, but I don't think it's as bad as some other players, and they don't get flopping technicals. So it's just like crazy to me. But so I'm gonna be on the anti-grifting train still, and hoping that the game just improves.
Yeah, I think the flopping technical is a great example of like they tried to fix a thing by changing the rules, and then it turns out it all comes down to whatever the refs like feel like doing. Um,
Yeah,
because they issued like two, and then we haven't seen any since. That's like in like 2 years. All right, so my next three agendas were all hate agendas, and they've changed dramatically over the last year. So my number three was anti-Suns, and I hate the Phoenix Suns. They're my number one. Like I hate this. They were my number one. Man, I hate this team. Um, I want nothing but bad things for them and their franchise and their fans. Unless we've got some great Suns fans in our chat, then we love you guys. But the Suns have gotten so incredibly sad that I it's not that I started to feel bad for them. It was more just like the hate watch isn't as fun anymore. I did not tune in to as many Phoenix Suns games this last year because they were so bad. The previous season, obviously they're in the hunt for the playoffs. I'm kind of hate watching on the nightly all these clutch games that they had against other Western Conference teams as they were losing games and falling closer and closer to the play-in, and then eventually they make the playoffs anyway, and it was like whatever. But then I enjoyed watching them get swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves. That was fun for me. Then they missed the playoffs this year, so that's, not great.
So are you keeping the Suns on your number 3?
I'm thinking about it. Anti-Suns, it's just not number 3 anymore. I think I've got to move it to 5. So I'm kind of answering 3 questions here. I got to keep them there because one of the first things that I learned about Nuggets fandom when I joined Nuggets fandom, because I joined in the 23 playoffs, was about the whole thing during the 2021 playoffs in that series and them saying Jamal Murray doesn't matter and Suns in 4 guys, which they did win in 4, so like whatever, but like fuck those guys. Like and also like even when I was a more casual NBA fan, I always like hated Chris Paul. Although I would have loved if he wanted to come to Denver, I wouldn't have said no. So yeah, I just never liked the Phoenix Suns, and they just became incredibly hateable. And so I got to keep them there for legacy purposes. They just get grandfathered in to the hate tier list. But number 3 for me is going to be, I gotta go anti-Wolves. Like, anti-OKC is one thing. I get it. They've actually won the championship, but
wow.
We don't have like 2 playoff series under our belts with that. We don't have Shea showing up to summer league games, signing autographs for kids and being like, we busted their ass kind of thing. And maybe we know those OKC kids, they're so good with the media. They know exactly what to say. We've seen J-Dub, Hartenstein, and Caruso all make, I believe, separate podcast appearances and Lou Dort. They're all like, yeah, man, Denver was our biggest challenge. Like, they know exactly what to say to like not push the buttons. And so I'm going to go with anti-Wolves over anti-OKC here. Just because those kids are so darn good with their media training. I understand why you have OKC higher though, so I don't have any quibbles with that.
I mean, I used to really not like, and I still don't like how the Suns or the Wolves kind of own us and keep winning games and series, but OKC are just so annoying. Their players are annoying.
Yeah.
But whatever.
So I'm gonna have anti-OKC actually right under anti-Wolves though to answer that
to finish out your,
because you have to have them there. Now that they've won a championship, it's like, well, we don't want them to get another one because no other team has repeated in the 2020s, and we don't want them to be the first team that gets a second title in this decade, even though they've got a really good chance of doing that. Because it just becomes a race now with these teams. Yeah. Just for reference, the other teams that I kicked off of this agenda, because OKC and the Wolves were not on my agenda tier, like my hate agenda tiers before. The Sixers and the Celtics. The Sixers are just like, they're like the extreme version of the Suns, where I'm like, no, like it's just too sad. I don't think about you anymore.
Yeah.
The Celtics were there as they were the Suns, but East, where I'm like, I hate this team. I grew up rooting for the Miami Heat. They were the big bad. They were LeBron's big bad in the Eastern Conference also for a long time. So, yeah. But, I over this past year, I've sort of let go of a lot of that because I tend to respect a lot of things about that organization. Plus, they're in the East, so I just don't care about them as much anymore.
Yeah, Hurricane just had a comment about how Anthony Edwards is willing to be hated, and I agree. It's kind of like fun to
Yeah, he's
hate
willing to
Ant
be hated by
in a
his friends
way.
too. So
Yeah, and sometimes Ant says things that I actually like, and then I want to dislike him in a way. Also, he plays more ethically than SGA, in my opinion.
he does, but
Um,
it's because he doesn't know how to grift.
sure,
Like
yeah, he doesn't. Other
he's
than he yells "A" on
yeah,
every
right.
layup attempt he.
Yeah,
But
he's just not good at it. That's not the same thing as playing it ethically.
yeah. All right, my
Yeah.
my fourth agenda item was death of big threes, which I'm definitely not going to have on my agenda now because while it seemed exciting to not have big threes anymore, it's turned into this whole CBA thing where it's about how many max contracts you have and less about how
Yeah.
many good stars you have on your team. And while I do enjoy that the talent is being spread out in the NBA and there maybe is more parity, it has some pain points transitioning into like letting the dust settle where stars are going to other teams and maybe some players being overpaid in certain situations and other players losing out on what they could possibly get. And it's just like a little bit annoying right now with the CBA to see it all work out. And I think teams are getting punished for drafting well too, which kind of sucks. And I don't want to get into it, but I saw all those stupid clips with CJ McCollum, like talking about the CBA and people memeing on him, like with the I think you should leave hot dog meme. The we're all trying to find the guy who did this gif with CJ and talking about the CBA. So I'm not going to put death of big threes. I also have a Jokic MVP agenda. You know, I love the Jokic MVPs, but after what I just witnessed with him losing out to SGA with that amazing season he had, I think I'm giving up on the MVP stuff.
Wow, they've broken you.
Yeah, that vote for SGA was just absurd to me still. But
It was actually like closer than I thought it would be because these things tend to be pretty lopsided. And it wasn't like crazy, but I think Jokic got almost 30% of the vote for second place. Or not second place, but 30% of the first place vote,
yeah.
which was surprising to me because when you think about it, that's just like, oh, that becomes like a 50-50 race if like 10, 15 people change their like flip their votes.
Mm-hmm.
Which was surprising to me. Just because I mean, I think SGA had a pretty solid case, even if I would have voted for Jokic myself. Um, one of the things with this is like once people decide what their case is going to be, you have to have a really good reason for them to not vote the way that they want to. And I don't think there was a good reason not to vote SGA if you wanted to vote for SGA, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think 2023 was way more absurd. I thought 2023 was way more absurd with Joel than and Jokic's case than even last year was
Yeah.
because Joel was
It
so
definitely
much
was.
worse than SGA was last year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
I think for me, it's like
yeah.
I look at Jokic's specific case, and I think his case last year was even better than the 23 one. And so it's like while Embiid, it was like ridiculous that he won it over Jokic, and obviously SGA, you know, his case was way better than Embiid's. I'm still just so sad that that specific Jokic season didn't win, but I get that.
Yeah,
And
I get that. I get that. I do think the 23 season is like arguably better in terms of like
hmm, but what he
team
accomplished,
impact
and yeah,
and yeah, with the like that kind
he
of
had
thing,
a better
which is
team
like
though.
what they waited a lot, in this season apparently, right? Which is like why it was absurd that it didn't win against Joel's
Yeah.
2023 season. So
So
it is what it is.
I am gonna put anti wolves at 4 just because I thought that they were maybe be worse and flame out, if you will, once they traded Cat for Randall. I thought that was like not a good trade. And Randall had some moments in the playoffs, but then just like kind of tapered off. So, but the downfall
Yeah,
of the
he was
Wolves
pretty
is
bad
not
against
complete.
OKC outside of that one game.
Yeah,
Like
that
a
he
game and
started
a
that
half.
game 1 and hit
Like game
like
one half and then game three, he was great. Other than that, it was like
Yeah.
oh, this is a
He hit like
disaster.
5 threes in a row or something in that first game, and I was like, oh, maybe this Randall thing's working out better than I thought, and then it just
They kept posting
cratered
him
a
up.
bit.
We talked about this. I'm like, stop posting him up. His face-up game is what was cooking them. Stop posting him up. And then they just
Yeah.
never went back to that. And I don't know if that was him. I don't know if that was coaching staff, whatever. But it was like, I have to, I'm sort of inclined to think that it wasn't him, because one of the critiques of Julius Randle when he was in New York was how much he loved going to those like face-up jumpers so soon, instead of like trying to like bully his way closer to the basket, whatever, and like passing out. But that was what was working for them in this series, and then they went away from it. So I was just like, I don't understand. I don't understand. So yeah. But they couldn't guard OKC. Like, that was the most shocking thing about that series, was like, man, their defense against this pretty limited offense sucks.
The best defense ever seen.
Well,
and since the 80s, from 2020 whatever, when we played them in the conference finals and lost.
Pistons. Oh yeah. When they played us the previous year, and
then it became OKC being one of the best defenses ever. So I still want to see the Wolves downfall. That'll be pretty fun. And then I put on 5 season length.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
not getting shorter, because the players are also
shorter.
not going to agree, because then they'd be like, well, that's less money in the immediate term. So
it is totally wishful thinking, but it is an agenda.
Hockey's trying to add games in the NHL. They also have an 82 game season, by the way. They're trying to add games.
NHL. Every league is adding games, like the NFL and all that. But I totally agree with AG and his sentiments on this topic, where he talked about how the product would be better if they had better scheduling and more breaks in between games in regular season and playoffs.
They can actually do that. They could schedule the playoffs better than they do without changing the length of the season, and they just don't do that.
Oh, the NHL did add games. Is it official? 84 games now. Jeez.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So Jay Kerr asked a question about the play-ins, and I think like season length, and me saying this, it wraps into different ideas around the season, where I just want the whole product to be better as the whole. And I think how they package it does impact this, whether it's play-in tournament, whether it's in-season tournament, whether it's shortening the season, whether it's like you're talking about maybe starting it at a different time to where they can schedule it differently and not compete with certain other markets or sports. I think would be positive for the league, and I'm pro league doing things that's going to improve the product.
Competing with other markets or sports, they should be.
I don't really either.
Yeah,
but they care
you just
about
listed
it.
that as like part of a thing. That's fine. I just wanted to give my thoughts on that. Where I'm like, no, I don't think this is not a live streamed small YouTube podcast where you're trying to find the ideal time to like squeeze in the content to get people to watch. Like, this is the NBA. Like, it's the NBA freaking A. You know, like. Act like it. Like,
we love NBA.
Like it.
Yeah, so I just want them to figure out the best like cadence for the season, because I think sometimes the regular season can be a bit of a slog. They're probably not going to do it, obviously, as you said, because there's money and incentives, and there's too much money to be had with more games being played. But
Will wants a cloud to yell at, and this is the new cloud.
And I don't care as much about NBA expansion. As cool as it would be to get like the Sonics back and another, and obviously a Vegas team. I'm not like on that yet. Get the Wolves
out of the conference.
Yeah.
That's my number one motivation for expansion.
My anti-KD agenda may be kicking up with the Rockets being better this year. I'm going to start hating KD again, because he's been on some teams that have like sucked and just didn't really matter. And I haven't seen the Rockets play. I think like theoretically on paper, they look really, really good. They have a lot of players. They have a lot of depth. The Rockets didn't have to give up a ton to get KD like in previous KD teams, so he has more complete team around him this time. So I'm not going to love that. So yeah. But yeah, the All-Star game.
They're great defensively, even if their offense doesn't improve that much.
Yes.
So
the All-Star game is weird,
because that's what happens in the regular season. In a lot of games with defense.
Just to shift gears really quick, I am kind of excited about the World versus the U.S. All-Star game format. Players might care about that.
I forgot they're doing that.
They might like put in more effort. Damn it. Okay.
If anything, what you're going to end up with is like oh, you put Jokic and Luka on a team together, they're just gonna be like blowing bubbles on the court while Giannis is like, guys, come on, we're playing basketball. Come on.
Yeah.
The Giannis and Wemby will be beside themselves trying to get Luka and Jokic to play basketball in that game. It's different when it's like your national team. Like I do think that like is a thing, but we don't have enough players from the different teams to do something like, NHL did with like I don't even know if Four Nations was an NHL thing. It just featured NHL players.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about hockey to know this for sure, so don't jump on me in the comments. Let's see.
So
It does look like the Four Nations face off. It was an international hockey tournament, so it wasn't even the NHL. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
no, it was
Jokic should be.
hosted by the NHL. My bad.
Jokic would just want to be a coach instead of play.
The Four Nations were it wasn't Russia because Russia's not doing the things right now because of the war. But they had enough players to feature Canada, Finland, Sweden, and the US. That's different because I'm pretty sure that across those teams, they probably had some players playing for their national team that were not in the NHL that got to like participate in these showcases. Do you think, and it's difficult because part of the thing with the All-Star game is it's NBA All-Stars, but should they do like a similar thing where they try to invite players from other countries, leagues, whatever, to participate in it? Because like it's a showcase game anyway. Like you don't have to be like a quote unquote good NBA player, like an elite NBA player to like look good in the All-Star game. Nobody's playing defense anyway. I think that's a way that they could think about just making it more fun and entertaining. Because I was watching even like the it was last summer, I think, or maybe it was during the season. Goran Dragic was retiring, and he did like a one last game for his retirement. And who was in that? I think am I crazy in saying Chris Bosh like played in that game? And like maybe it was Powell. They got some like dudes that were like retired. They were just like playing in this game. That was the one that the Jokic played in, so it must have been in the offseason last year. And I think Luka did too. And it wasn't like the national teams or anything. It was just like dudes that were Goran's friends from throughout his career. Right?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And that was just like a fun little dumb showcase game and that's what I feel like the All-Star game should be instead of us trying to make it like this competitive thing. So they should just be coming up with more creative ways to like, and maybe that's what this Team World versus Team USA thing does. But I hope that the intention is not to try to make it more competitive by moving to this format. I just don't think it'll be what
we'll see.
Like I don't think people trying to shoehorn
I think that's what
in
they are
like
trying
this
to
thing.
do.
Well,
they
it's
want
not
it to be
work.
competitive.
I mean,
we'll see.
Whatever. Nobody listens to me over there.
So we've been, as you know, our streams are usually over 2 hours. We're at 2 hours, 15 minutes. Thanks for everyone who's been hanging out. I know we wanted to maybe get some questions from people, so we might have to like rapid fire
throughout the show. If anybody has questions for us, please submit them in the chat.
One question I promised to come back to for Curry Clears Kobe was about Luka and his weight and body transformation, and if you have any thoughts on that and how it might help his game and anything. Do you have any expectations?
My main issue with Luka offensively last year was how much he was settling for the pull-up jump shot, whether it was the three or the mid-range, whatever. Obviously, they were also not going in. It looks a lot better when those shots are going in, but they were not going in at a high enough clip last season. And he wasn't driving to the basket as much. I think part of the problem is that Jackson Hayes, even though he looked serviceable for a large stretch of last year after they got Luka, he's not a great pick and roll big. And I just think if Luka can get back to a combination of being a great driver and having a good lob threat, like let's say Ayton starts rolling hard again and doesn't settle for his stop and pop midi, that's when he's most dangerous. It's not really like the pull up three, like that's cake on top of the whole, on top of it all. But if that's the base of his game, like the bread and butter, like it has been the last couple of seasons, He's not as effective offensively, and he needs to be very effective offensively for this Lakers team to, to function. So hopefully the physical transformation, aids in that. Or actually not helpfully, because I hope the Lakers, crash and burn and all that stuff. No offense to Luka, but he just joined what would have been my number 6 hate agenda in the Los Angeles Lakers. So
just real quick, Mournicle Green gives us congrats on the 1K and says they really appreciate us. So thank you, Mournicle Green. Thanks for being here. Appreciate the kind comments.
We have such great viewers.
Yes. On the Luka front. Yeah, speaking of reality shows, the Lakers are quite a reality show, as per usual, if they're not winning championships and annoying people. They just sold. They have Luka. LeBron is in some weird little feud with him. We didn't talk about this weird connection
feud with Luka?
No, feud with LeBron.
Oh, the Lakers are in a feud with LeBron.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then yeah, we didn't talk about the LeBron Instagram post with what was his name? Jokic's
Miško.
Miško. We didn't talk about that. I don't think there's much to that, but it is like
Adam Silver put out something today, or no, he didn't put out something, but like a news story came out about how he's meeting with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, about some NBA Europe expansion stuff. So I'm pretty sure that's what that was about. But Miško loves stirring the pot, as evidenced by previous Instagram posts of his. Like when it was like he posted like a screenshot of some betting odds on the Lakers being Jokic's next team or something. And then I forget whatever. He's done that before. He's done this before. I don't think that he was even trying to imply that. Maybe he was trying to imply LeBron coming to Denver. I don't know. But he loves stirring the pot. He didn't give any context to this, so we don't actually know what they were meeting about, but I would imagine that it has something to do with NBA Europe. Yeah. Did we have a specific question about?
Not yet, but Igor says there's a FIBA YouTube channel. Some games are free to watch.
I do know that some of the like U19 and U17, like those types of games are free, but I have not in the past, when it comes to these major international tournaments, been able to see. I don't see FIBA broadcasting those because they often have broadcast rights partners that make it so that they are not streaming those things on their YouTube channel for free or behind a paywall, because they have their broadcast partner that they direct people to.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're going to be doing that for Eurobasket, but maybe they will. And if so, that would be great. And so everybody should monitor the FIBA YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. But last thing on that LeBron and Miško thing, it's like LeBron's not going to come to the Nuggets to have his retirement tour where he wants everyone to clap for him and have the Kobe retirement tour.
He maybe saw the reception that Russ got in Ball Arena and was like,
I don't know. Nuggets fans don't want LeBron on the team, but if he came here, maybe they'd at least root for him.
Some Nuggets fans don't, but I don't think that is. I think a lot of Nuggets fans would love to have LeBron on this team if it meant he was taking like an MLE and was like
to come and just help
let's just
get his ring
chase. Yeah,
he will get obliterated if he ring chase and get an MLE. Like the opposing fans and LeBron haters will have a field day with that one. But
I think
LeBron has some choices.
LeBron is that he hasn't just put up 2 middle fingers enough to the LeBron haters, and he's tried to like do this whole thing where I'm like, well, I'm going to
LA.
Give
me my respect.
And he's gonna get ripped apart regardless. I'm like, yeah, dude, you're going to the Lakers. Of course, people are gonna rip you apart for that. And then you like created your 2020 super team. Of course, you're gonna get ripped apart for that. And you won your bubble championship, and you're gonna get ripped apart for that. It doesn't matter. That's why you should come to the Nuggets.
Well, he should have gone to the Nuggets before he went to the Lakers, or just another team that was competitive. Although he would have been killed.
We'd let you fly out to LA on weekends to go film Space Jam 2. That would have been fine. But no, you had to be in LA.
Yeah. He is second fiddle
now.
It's
funny because LeBron is a second fiddle in LA, but I'm going to tell you right now, LeBron was like their best player in at least 3 out of 5 playoff games last year. Like, that's how bad it was with Luka and how good LeBron was, frankly, for most of that playoffs.
There were times,
not defensively, but everyone
yeah.
sucked defensively.
There were times where I thought LeBron, like the end, it was the end. I was like, he's done. He's not athletic. He can barely jump. And then he just like all of a sudden would be okay and play pretty good. So I guess that'll happen when you get up there in your career and your
it's all about consistency.
You don't know
right?
where you're going to get night on night, and he's going to retire. I am expecting the retirement announcement for this season, and if it doesn't, I'll be surprised.
I would have disagreed with that like a month ago, but because of the way that the Lakers have been moving, and the fact that I agree with you, I don't think he's going to be going to a different team to have his last season.
He wants the Lakers to have that tour. He's not going to go to another team. Maybe the Heat. Like, maybe you could get by on the Heat and, like, claim you're trying to compete and you've been there, so you get a little bit more respect. The Cavs aren't going to take him. There's no reason for him to
move across the country. Like, Savannah's not going to agree to that. She's like, no, we're not doing
this. Even for one season?
No. Like, okay. What is the incentive for Savannah? She's like, we are literal billionaires.
Just last season, let LeBron do what he wants to do.
She's been letting him do what he wants to do for the last 20 years.
Over half of his life, he's been in the NBA.
So, no. If I, like, from what I know and what I can infer, Savannah could and should be like, hell no. Okay. You just retire.
Mm-hmm. The problem is Cleveland doesn't want him, so yeah.
I mean, they don't want his giant contract. If he wanted to go to Cleveland for an MLE, I'm sure they'd take him. They'd figure out a way to get under that.
Yeah, he could maybe try that for his last season.
But again, like maybe, but I don't think Savannah doesn't want to move to Cleveland, like back to Cleveland. Like maybe they have family there and all that, but it's like, yeah, but I live in LA now. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
and
what are we
Bronny's in LA. Well, I guess Bronny would go to Cleveland too. So
who is Cleveland? Let me see who's Cleveland retreating to the Lakers. Just gonna run over to their roster real quick.
For Bronny,
who could they drop?
Because they'd only need to
Craig
drop
Porter
one.
Jr. It's kind of it. Everyone else is good. And I like Craig Porter Jr. too. Like, he was really useful for them when Darius Garland was out half the season the year before.
Yeah. It's unlikely. LeBron's just going to stay on the Lakers and he's going to retire. That's just what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised.
All right. We have come to the end of our show. Let me run back over to our show notes here. Yeah, well, like, we've reached 1,000 subs. This is like a huge freaking accomplishment. I wanted to do a whole show to celebrate that, and I think this has been really, really fun. So we really appreciate everybody who joined us in the chat. We appreciate everybody that's going to watch this on the replay later today, later this week, whatever. Anything else you want to say to the, I was going to say guests. You guys are our guests today.
Yeah.
To the viewers before we sign off.
No, just thank you everyone as always. Like, we appreciate you. And obviously there are other massive, huge YouTube channels with way more than 1,000 subs, but to start kind of from nothing like we did and just trying to get people to come hang out with us, this is really cool, and it's something we just at least wanted to get to. That was like the first goal, to get there. And so yeah, we're really happy, and we love that you guys come and hang out. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Snoozer. Yes. And to sign off, I will say, if you like our content, please remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. Because if you don't hit the notification bell, it's like you didn't even subscribe. Thank you, YouTube. Please leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Music, or Amazon Music. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. Follow us on social, Instagram, and TikTok. All our social links are in the description. And always remember that winning is fun and losing sucks.